Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we are looking at the divisibility rule of 5. So let's get started. Our divisibility rule for 5 tells us that if the last digit is a 0 or a 5, then this number is divisible by 5. So now let's look at how we can apply this rule. So when looking at our number 1255, we're looking at the last digit in this number, which is 5. And because this rule says that if it ends with a 0 or 5, that means that our number is divisible by 5. So because it is, then we can say a yes to this number. And as you know, we are going to perform our test by dividing 5 into 1255. So 5 can't divide into 1 since it's less than 5. 5 will divide into 12 twice. 2 times 5 is equal to 10. 12 minus 10 gives us 2. We're going to bring down our 5, changing 2 into 25. 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 minus 25 is a difference of 0. We're going to bring down our 5, and 5 divides into 5 once. 1 times 5 is 5, and 5 minus 5 is 0. So we can see by using our divisibility rule and then testing it by that 1255 is divisible by 5. Let's try another example. In this example, our number ends with a 0. So because 7690 ends with a 0, according to our rule, 5 should be able to divide into this number without a remainder. So let's perform our check by dividing 5 into 7690. 5 goes into 7 once. 1 times 5 is 5. 7 minus 2 gives us the difference of 2. We're going to bring down our 6, changing 2 into 26. 5 divides into 26 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. 26 minus 25 gives us a difference of 1. We're going to bring down our 9, changing 1 into 19. 5 goes into 19 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. 19 minus 15 gives us a difference of 4. We're going to bring down our 0, changing 4 into 40. 5 goes into 40 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. And 40 minus 40 is 0. So even by performing our division test, we can see that 5 completely divided into 7690 without a remainder, which further proves that our divisibility rule for 5 is correct. So let's look at a final example before we leave. So we have the number 6502. Now in this case, our number ends with a 2. And because it doesn't end with 0 or 5, then our rules for this question tells us that 5 will not divide into this number without a remainder. So let's perform our division to test this number. So dividing 5 into 6502. 5 goes into 6 once. 1 times 5 is 5. 6 minus 5 leaves us with 1. We're going to bring down our 5, changing 1 into 15. 5 divides into 15 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 minus 15 is 0. We're going to bring down that 0. And yes, I know what some of you are thinking. Because it's 0, that we could skip this number. But we divide into every digit. We do not skip the 0. Because even though 0 may not have an amount, as some people may think, 0, 0, 0 doesn't carry a value. Remember that 0 plays a very important role in every number as a placeholder. So when skipping that 0, you could possibly, at least you will, change the quantity of your answer. So make sure that you still divide into 0, even though it's still going to be 0. So 5 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0, and 0 minus 0 is 0. We're going to bring down our last digit, which is 2. 5 divides into 2 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0, and 2 minus 0 is 2. So as you can see, 5 did not divide into this number completely, and we had a remainder, which tells us that our divisibility rule for 5 is correct when it comes to this number as well. Okay, so let's review. And there is one key point that I want to point out to you before we leave. When looking at your multiples of 5, I want you to pay attention to one key point. If you look at your 5 time table and all of the numbers in your 5 time table, you will notice that all of these numbers end with either a 0 or a 5. So when looking at your divisibility rule for 5, that's something that you also need to take into consideration, that this rule is linked to our 5 time table where all of the numbers end with 5 or 0. So just remember that when you're applying your divisibility rule for 5, if the last digit ends with a 0 or 5, that means it can be divisible by 5 because somewhere along the line it's probably in your 5 time table. Okay, so I hope this video was very helpful to you. I hope it helps you with your division moving forward, especially as it relates to your 5 time table or even dividing by 5. So remember that we have more videos on the divisibility rule. Make sure that you check those out and make sure that you put these rules into practice. It's okay to make up numbers, test out the rules, and see if the rule applies to that number. That way you can help yourself develop your math skills. And until next time, this is Jules Math Tools, where math is made easy.